This is Jared Anderson, and I'm really Jared. If you don't follow the Sunday, what is it?
Engaging Gospel Doctrine.
A whole different. Did you rebrand?
I did.
Okay. Tell us really quick just about your life, your mission, your work, because it's actually really, really interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I call myself a missionary of well-being. That's the thing that I'm most passionate about, is living well. I'm a utilitarian, and utilitarians always need targets. And so my utilitarian target, because you need to measure the good, is sustainable well-being of conscious life on Earth. I aim small. So I'm currently a full-time, 200% chaplain. So I do full-time hospice and half-time at the prison. So I'm a chaplain in both. And then I have the Sunday School podcast. And with all sincerity, I say I felt my call to ministry in fall of 2013 when I was teaching a course on the future of religion at Westminster College. Mm. And semester after semester, my students would say, I like what we're talking about in this class. Like, I don't know how I feel about religion, but please give me more. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you're talking about, which is the intersection of human nature and religion. Mm-hmm. And the first day of class, when we talked about religion, second day of class, we talked about the experience of being male and female, which is interesting. But the first day of class, I said, if you can name any cultural institution more powerful than religion, I will give you an A, and you never need to come back. So perhaps we can circle around to that. But that's when I founded my nonprofit, the Olam Institute. And the tagline for that is Heal the World Through Religion Done Better. And my goal is, as a humanist chaplain and minister, to move through the world exactly like a religion. My current diagnosis of our culture is the old no longer works and the new has not yet arrived. The current American myth is get a good job, earn a bunch of money, buy a bunch of shit, and enjoy life with someone hot. And that's killing us because it doesn't satisfy. Nope. And people bitch about the millennials. Oh, I promise not to use that word. I'm sorry.
Millennials.
People complain about millennials, but really, you're just awake, And that's the problem. You want something good and sustainable, and you want to make a real difference. As a chaplain, it's very beneficial because I was raised LDS, did my PhD work under Bart Ehrman in the New Testament, and in North Carolina, I taught world religions for 7 years at Westminster College, and now I'm a humanist, which means I can reach anyone. So my primary identity is a religious humanist, which means I'm a human who takes religion seriously. That's all it is. So that's the super brief bit of my journey. Is I always respected religion, went on a mission to Madagascar, did my undergraduate in Middle Eastern studies with a Hebrew emphasis, then did graduate work, studied 10 other languages, and the current core narrative is I've always taken religion seriously. So I bore my testimony to Bart Ehrman in 2006. And I was still a believing member of the church. Wow. Because my faith journey, really quick, is I believed everything through my undergraduate, and I was about 24 or 25. And embarrassingly, I would email world-class scholars about 1 Nephi 13. But what about the hidden manuscripts? And Christopher Tuckett, who's one of the top New Testament scholars in the world, was like, unless you're aware of manuscripts I'm not, that proposal wouldn't work. But I was so Mormon. That's how much I believed. And it's
flagrant confidence.
It is. I call Mormonism the universe in a fishbowl. Because the striking thing is that Mormons have this confidence. Carry yourself with the confidence of a mediocre white man, right? Have this confidence that their worldview applies to everything.
Right.
We just suspended a bishop at the prison because he broke the rules and wrote to the Board of Pardons, and he said he had discernment. Mm. And so again, it's really striking the earnestness, the cult strength earnestness of the LDS Church, and they believe that this I am the center of the universe importance and excellence applies to everything. It's brilliant. And I think it's one reason why members of the church are so successful.
Totally. It's a narrative that does something.
Exactly. Have you heard... so Max Weber is one of the fathers of sociology, and he wrote a book on the Protestant work ethic and how Western culture and our capitalistic success, which is now destroying the world and all of us, but has a lot of its roots in Protestantism. And so that's what fascinates me, is like I lift the hood of human nature and religion and say, how does this work and how does this function? And like the depressing thing, you all need to support Zelph. As we discussed, the depressing thing is that pathetic systems trump individual genius. And so our systems are so broken and terrible, and yet people are just pumping the money, pumping millions and billions of dollars into these broken exploitative systems that are just literally destroying the world and killing us.
Yes.
And yet, we have these brilliant prophets like you, and I try to be one as well, who have the pulse and say, this isn't working, this needs to be better, we need to do something better, and yet people don't invest.
So I'm interested in your approach to, we talked about, you mentioned earlier
the old no longer works.
The old no longer works.
The new has not yet arrived.
So what is the new that's arriving? Because Mormonism or traditional fundamentalist religions aren't working. And
this is where I get depressing. Currently, half of the globe lives on less than $2 a day. The poorest Americans, I hate that term, but the poorest people in the United States are at the 60th percentile of global wealth. And so this is a fundamental, exploitative, unsustainable, and we are getting to the point, I think it's called presentist fallacy, that we think the time where we live in is the most important time, but it's actually true in our case. Because in the past 100, 200 years, we've already blown through 50% of the world's resources, forests, fossil fuels, all of that. And even though another way that I summarize it is we are in a race to the death between cataclysm and innovation.
Yes.
That's everything.
Yep.
And I deeply believe, I'm on team innovation, I deeply believe in the human ability to work our ass off to get us out of deep shit. But the problem is, as you know, we are engaging climate systems. It's going to get really bad. And so I think the most likely thing that's going to happen is the super rich are going to make infrastructure islands, like the movie Elysium. And again, that's already what's happening. And that less of the globe will become habitable, and there will just be the pockets of infrastructure.
Yep.
The thing is that none of us can do much about that. And this is why I say pathetic systems trump individual genius, because even though you and I are above average intelligence, we're not as intelligent as 10 people put together.
People are like, do you even watch his show? I don't think so.
let alone 100. And so we're in systems of thousands and millions. But here's the hopeful thing. I need to get a mug. We can put it on your store. A mug that says, think outside the box, work within the box, change the box as possible. So what we can do, I joke, not joke, that I'm going to raise my kids to be apocalypse ninjas. What we can do is we can come up with solutions, and then we can articulate viable solutions so that when everything goes to shit, people will start looking for solutions. We can come back to this, but I've distilled my life philosophy down to 8 words that I'm going to write a book on. And it's right relationship, right target, right order, right work. And I deeply believe that we can live in such a way, and this is like religiousy, because I still have it, that we can have peace of conscience. And the way that we live can just work, and it can be sustainable. So my favorite definition, this is Bart Ehrman's, my favorite definition of Jesus' ministry is he lived as if the kingdom had already come. And this is the hopeful part. I really believe that each and every one of us can live as if the kingdom had already come. So what I think will happen is I think that things will get unavoidably bad, and that will be the tipping point that I'm hopeful for, and we will take seriously, and my greatest, all the problems, and my greatest hope is that when that tips, we will still have enough infrastructure to implement the sustainable solutions.
That's the hope.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I like that because it's kind of like depressing and inspiring at once. So how I apply that in my own life is I deeply believe that right here, right now, again, we can apply the principles of wellness into our lives no matter what the systems are doing. And so that's what I want to empower people to do.
Okay, so for people who are have that resistance toward organized religion, especially our audience coming out of a Mormon background, what's your sales pitch?
That's a fantastic one. So I first we need to meet everyone where they are. One of my current mantras is, and I'll unpack this: true and good matter not if ineffective. That's important. It doesn't matter if something is true. It doesn't matter how good it is if it doesn't work. I love to cook, and if someone throws away dinner, it doesn't matter how nutritious it was, doesn't matter how pretty it was. I have Buckminster Fuller's book. There's a $100,000 Buckminster Fuller challenge, and he has this really great quote, which is, don't to effect change, don't fight things. Create a new system that makes the current one obsolete. And so my invitation is, if you don't like religion, come up with something better.
Which you're...
that's what I'm actively doing. But so what I
think a lot of people don't see the inherent value. They don't take religion seriously. They just say, it's big phooey, and instead of working in the box or it's...
Exactly. So what I would say to everyone listening is take yourself seriously. But here's the problem. It hurts to take yourself seriously. I'll give you an example. One of the hardest in my life. So one of the most painful experiences of my life was my second divorce. It was 3 years ago. It was the last thing that I wanted, and that version of me died. But as I said, almost everything good in my life is from that experience. Mm-hmm. That's the crazy thing. It's my 42nd birthday. So 42 is the answer to everything. And it's so interesting. And this hospice patients say the same thing, where so often what we most value in our life stems directly from what we least wanted. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the paradoxes we need to take seriously, is we are terrible at anticipating what we want. The only Zelph actually had this really beautiful thing about living life in reverse. That we're running backwards because we can't see into the future. And so as humans, we only know what we are glad to have done or regret to have done. So back to taking yourself seriously, the prerequisites to honesty are courage and fortitude, which means you need to be courageous enough to allow anything to be possible. And you need to have the emotional endurance to clean up the shit. Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I was suicidal for months after my divorce. And I realized that my suicidality, and I take suicide very, very seriously. We could talk about passive versus active suicidal ideation. And if you feel suicidal, take that really seriously, get help. It was very helpful for me to learn that active suicidal ideation is where, you're in real danger of something happening. Mm-hmm. And passive suicidal ideation is where the thoughts of suicide are comforting. Mm. And it's like running a marathon and be like, I could stop anytime, I could stop anytime, I could stop anytime, I could stop anytime. And when I realized that my resilience is greater than anything I could go through, I grieved. Mm-hmm. I grieved.
You lost an out.
Exactly. So I realized, and this is the moment of truth, that my grief around my divorce was a codependent temper tantrum to try to get my ex-wife to emotionally validate me. That's the truth. That's the baseline truth. And the truth is that most of our reasons for doing things are really basic. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I want this. I like desire and fear. What this has to do with religion is, as I said, nothing engages with human nature individually and collectively more powerfully than religion. So are you familiar with PERMA, positive psychology? So positive psychology, Martin Seligman helped found it. And there was this, with Freud, there was the study of neuroticism and dysfunction, right? So positive psychology, Jonathan Haidt is a big popularizer of positive psychology. Positive psychology says, well, what is the science of thriving? What is the science of flourishing? We don't care how you feel about your mother. It's like, what is the path to healthy, thriving, flourishing? And so the PERMA is one of the acronyms where all of us seek out these 5 things. Positive emotions, which gets into the science of happiness, which is its own thing. We all have a genetic happiness set point where we just drift toward, no matter what. Anyway, engagement, not the BYU kind, but this idea of we want to lose ourselves. Like we're feeling good right now. We're feeling flow right now. Because we're engaging in something we're good at. That's kind of challenging. We're making creative content. And then relationships, goes without saying, meaning, and then achievement. So individually, we crave those things. Positive emotions, doing something we're good at that's difficult, relationships, meaning, and achievement. And then collectively, we need to be pro-social, which is a fancy word for we need to cooperate and play nicely with others. That's everything.
Yeah.
Religion produces those outcomes more than anything else ever. I respect the allergy to religion, but the challenge is, how do we meet human needs without it? Saying meet your own needs without religion is like saying, Tanner, I want you to invent your language.
Yeah.
I want to invent your own language.
You literally, you can't.
Yeah, and even J.R.R. Tolkien, who's one of the most brilliant linguists ever, he didn't make up his own languages. He just altered current languages.
Because that's how language evolution works.
Exactly. Because these are collective inventions. So what I would say, again, take human nature seriously. Take yourself seriously. So how to fix religion? Here's the thing. Religion needs to become so good that the atheist can support it. Like, this is what I want, is a virgin, and this is, by the way, why I do the Sunday School podcast. 95% of my listeners are active LDS using my podcast to teach Sunday school in their words. And in 7 years, there is not a single truth claim.
Amazing.
In 7 years, there's not a single Mormon truth claim.
And that's the way it should be. And that's one that I can...
No, it's not the way it should be. But at the same time, the missing piece that we don't get as progressives is... My Engaging Gospel Doctrine podcast is recognizable and claimable as Mormon. So functionally, it is social science informed humanism translated into Mormon language.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect target. So back to religion, I think why our current culture is clinging to supernaturalism as the definition of religion is because if we let go of that, too many things would be religion. That's one thing I love about Mormonism is there is no supernatural in Mormonism. I call Mormonism science fiction fan fiction.
Yeah.
It's like science fan fiction of Christianity. Surely it is the earth that moves and not the sun. And there is no spirit. It's just more refined matter. But again, religion as it is now cannot thrive without the Ozian curtain. Without, don't lift the hood and don't pull back the curtain and see how it works. Whereas I embrace how it works.
Yes.
And so again, my pitch is no matter what you think about religion, it's about being human. It's about the human experience. And so you need to do the human experience well. So I did a hospice conference presentation called Bereavement Without Belief. And when I received my call to ministry, felt in 2013, I had this intuition that I had to serve the dying and imprisoned, because it's the dying and imprisoned that the afterlife myth does the most work. Mm-hmm. And I have reluctantly come to the conclusion that belief in the afterlife is pretty much nothing but an avoidance mechanism.
Yes.
I can't think of a healthy function.
No.
Because we don't, A Short Stay in Hell, have you read it? Mm-mm. It's so terribly good. We don't want forever. Forever is actually horrifying.
Hell. Yeah,
yep, that's his point, is that eternity, no matter how good, is hell. What we want is longer, but we don't even want longer. And the irony...
Well, the idea of it.
Yeah, we just don't want to have to confront the reality of our mortality.
Yes.
That's all we really want, is avoidance. And in fact, that is how most of us are coping day to day, is we are distracting ourselves, we are avoiding ourselves, we are engaging in our addictions of choice.
I think Terence McKenna said the cult of the West is permanence. And you see that in all our structures and systems.
Mm-hmm. And I really think it's a cult of distraction as well now. And one of the biggest things that intrigues me is, in our culture, we worship physical fitness and we run away screaming from emotional fitness. Like, we don't even want to know it's possible.
No.
We don't even want to know that we can be content and satisfied and peaceful. I know we need to wrap up soon. I think the number one skill is to hurt well. What I would recommend to everyone right now in this moment is learn how to be honest with yourself. One of my principles that I try to live by is all of your thoughts are safe. All of your feelings are safe. All of your thoughts are valid. All of your feelings are valid. We're scared. Mm-hmm. We're scared of saying the terrible things.
Yes.
We're scared of feeling and thinking the terrible things. Now, the other side is to be fully accountable for your behavior.
Yes.
And even the way you verbalize your feelings as behavior. Do you see how that means?
Yeah.
Like totally. Words are actions. That's the thing. But ideally, we have relationships where you can say anything. And people are like, well, yeah. Well, that's kind of crazy, dude. That's dark. But you're safe. But you should be safe for yourself. And you should be able to admit, I regret being a parent, or, I hate this job, or I have homicidal fantasies, or like whatever it is, and learn relationship with it. Mm-hmm. Like, really quick story.
Because the more you run from it, the more you project it into the world.
What you resist persists is one of my favorite summaries. The other one is, change does not happen till the pain of the pain becomes greater than the pain of the change. It's really elegant. So my oldest daughter, who turns 20 in December, she had a fight with her boyfriend at the time, and she got cold. And she's like, Dad, can we talk about this? And I'm like, oh, I understand that very well. And she's like, I know, that's why I'm talking to you. And she said, I hated it. I never want to feel like that again. And I said, you're going to. And the only thing to do is relationship with it. I used to. I'm a nerd and geek, and so I'm shifting from a warrior to a cleric. This is internal family systems theory combined with D&D, and so I used to get to my coping mechanism used to be this cold cruelty. I am very clever, and so the parting shot. The whole, at least, boom, boom, I was really, really good at that. And I would get to a place where no one's pain hurt me. And I got to the point, I don't do that anymore, thankfully. And I got to the point where I was like, I used to call him Mean Jared, but then I called him the Warrior, who had bladed armor. And I was like, Warrior, thank you for protecting me from hurt. I don't need that anymore. And so this is what all of us need to do, is love and accept all of ourselves, all of everything. So the first thing to do is triage yourself and be like, okay, this is my current state. Like you did good naming earlier. We were like, I don't care about money or status or whatever. Still donate. Just to know yourself. And then when pain is our alarm system, and so when you're in distress, talk to it. Like, why am I sad? Why am I lonely? Why am I grieving? What is that trying to tell me? Thank you, grief. Thank you, loneliness. Thank you, pain. Thank you, sadness. And then do what it says within reason and ethics, and practice compassionate honesty until your emotional endurance increases. And that really creates a target where you can't lose. Because no matter what happens, no matter how fucked up the world is, and it is profoundly, like you can be well in any, and the great thinkers, Alexander Solzhenitsyn and Elie Wiesel and, these people who went through so much, Viktor Frankl, that's their secret, is that, no matter what your environment or circumstance is, you still have limited power over how you can respond. And the absolute truth is that no matter what your limitations are, my father and brother are both bipolar schizoaffective, and I talk to him all the time. I don't know what he can do with his brain, but all of us can do better. Like another one of my aphorisms is, we are as good as we are incentivized and empowered to be. Just think about that.
Yeah.
None of us are doing our best. Ain't nobody got time for that or energy, So yeah, the place to start is compassionate honesty though. And once we are compassionately honest with ourselves and those around us, we can increase our wellness, and we will be well equipped to, effect the change we want to see in the world.
Amen. Jared, thank you so much for taking time to do this. I feel like I just got like a free college class.
I love it. I really love it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you all to our supporters and people for watching. If you have any questions for Jared, I'll put his contact information in the description box, and it's where you can find him and all his stuff.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, bye.